You know, 2 weeks, Melissa, since the hurricane, and you can still break the activities down to 3 different points. You've got rebuilding and cleanup, and that is largely happening by individuals, happening by hand. You have restoration of power. That's the big job, and it's happening very slowly. And you still have the distribution of aid more than 2 weeks out. And from that, we get some remarkable stories, not the least of which is coming from the FBI's elite hostage rescue team and their tactical helicopter unit. They were out here with the helicopters. They ran into a private sector donor who had aid and voluntarily changed their mission. And what the guys in the helicopter unit did is they just flew around till they could find open soccer fields, open baseball diamonds, and they would put the helicopters down and hand out all the food, water, medicine that they could get their hands on. And sadly, what I hear from the agents in that particular unit is there is still a tremendous need for aid, particularly in the remote towns in the center of the island, high up in the mountains where there are bad roads. The trucks still aren't getting to them, Melissa.
It's Sandra, Mike, but that's all right. The Guajataca Dam. Everybody's talking about this, Mike. What is the status of that dam at this point?
The Guajataca Dam is still the biggest threat for a big catastrophic failure, if you will. That dam hadn't been updated since the 80s. And during the course of the hurricane, the output pipes jammed, which was one problem. You also had a tremendous amount of water coming into the reservoir. So we had all this water that went over the spillway. It's supposed to go over the spillway, but it had just never handled this kind of volume before.
Such a volume of water came through so fast, and the spillway itself really had some structural issues, and it undermined and ripped out the bottom half of the spillway, and thus is starting to erode back that spillway and the bottom of the dam.
And the foundation of that spillway is pretty much sand. If it erodes all the way up to the dam, you could be talking about a catastrophic failure of the dam, which would flood the hundreds of families down below. So what the Navy pilots and Marines on the ground are doing is they're hooking up those big old Jersey barriers to a CH-53 helicopter, and they drop it at the foot of that spillway to make a big pile of rocks. If they can make that pile big enough, it'll shore up the foundation of that spillway, in theory anyway, and stop the erosion.